Hi, I'm Valerie and welcome to my wildlife garden. I'm an artist and illustrator, so I use wildlife as inspiration for my posters and other educational items. I'm currently working on butterflies to make a new butterfly poster. You'll notice my garden is full of wildflowers. I've got bluebells in my lawn. There's other wildflowers in our garden, some of which are planted, but others that appear naturally. Things like the red campions here. There's lots of things you can do to attract the birds in the garden. Obviously feeding them. I tend to use fat balls, sunflower hearts and Niger seed. The more variety of food you put out, the more variety of birds you're going to get. Another thing you can do, this is an old fat ball feeder that I filled with sheep's wool and a bit of dried grass and feathers. This helps the birds out with their nesting material. You can also put out a variety of bird boxes to attract different birds. We try not to be too tidy, so we've left the dandelions and daisies to grow. We've also got bugle coming up. All of these things are liked by all the wildlife. I was watching the bullfinches earlier feed on the dandelions and daisies. There's lots of things you can do to help you study the small creatures in your garden. This is an old garden sieve and a white bowl. If you put the sieve over the bowl, get yourself some leaf litter, some dry grass, anything like that. Shake it over your bowl and then have a look to see what you can see. We've got a tiny spider there and lots of other little tiny creatures. In this corner of the garden we've planted lots of crabapple trees, hawthorn and other trees to attract the wildlife. We've also got our willow den here, which the birds love, and the dry stone wall here, which we often find lizards and voles and other small creatures use it to hide in. We've planted lots of wildflowers and fruit trees, and we've got a lovely native hedge we planted about 10 years ago. We've got field maple, hawthorn, we've got blackthorn here, but we've also got hazel. It's now grown lovely and thick, so we get birds nesting in it. It's really nice. If you've got an offcut of something like corrugated iron, put it in a quiet corner of your garden, and then every now and again gently lift it to see if you've got anything living underneath it. Nothing today, but quite often there's a big toad under there. But we've got holes here where the voles go. One day I'll find a slow worm under there too. Another thing you can do is create a pitfall trap. You can use something like a flower pot, but I'm using a slug trap. I don't use it for slugs, but these are good because they've got a lid too. What you do is you make a hole and bury it so that the rim is at ground level, so that the creatures fall in and you can see what you've got. Let's have a look, see what we've got in here. Ooh. As you can see, I take these bits and pieces out. We've got a spider, oh, and a click beetle, and another beetle here. You see that? Can you see it? Watch the click beetle. They use quite a bit of force to jump up in the air. So there we are. That's not been there very long, and already I've caught a few things. If you are going to do this, make sure you check them regularly and don't leave them to fill up with water so that your creatures drown. I'm going to let all these go now. This is our cherry tree, which has just finished blooming. But we've got a feeding station on it. We've got more nesting wool for the birds and some Niger seed there, and also some water there for them to drink. During dry periods like this, it's important to put water out for the birds. And also think about the swallows that are now nesting. If you've got a bit of earth that's bare, add some water and give them some mud to help them to nest. This is my herbaceous border. Not much out at the moment, but I've tried to plant it with bees and butterflies in mind. So we've got things like the centura here, which they love. I've also got bee boxes, ladybirds and other insect boxes to help give them somewhere to hide. We're lucky here to have lots of bats. If you come out at dusk, you'll see lots flying out. So we've given them somewhere to roost. We've put up a nice big bat box. It's often difficult to know whether or not your bat box is being used, but if you look really closely, you can see. If you focus down here and look very carefully, you can see underneath the bat box we have lots of droppings here, which shows that we have actually got bats in our bat box. Here I've made a bug hotel. It's not quite finished, it needs some more tubes in it, but it's a start. But if you haven't got the materials to make one, or you're not inclined to do so, you can also get pre-made ones. This one's just got tube that's ideal for leaf cutter bees and things like that. This is our woodland path, leads to our wildlife pond. We created this pond about 8 to 10 years ago and planted it with native plants to attract wildlife. If you're going to have a wildlife pond, forget about fish, plant native plants and the wildlife will come naturally. As you can see, we've got some beautiful bog bean here. We did a bit of pond dipping earlier to see what we could find, and this is what we've got. If you look closely, you will see we have a couple of newts here. I think they're both palmate newts. I think that's probably a female there. Looks a bit plump. And this one, you can see its back feet are webbed and it's got a filament at the end of its tail. That tells us it's a male palmate newt. We've also got pond snails, ordinary pond snails, and we've got a ram's horn snail here too. There are also some other small creatures here. Here we have a newt pole. If you look closely, you can see its gills. There's also other small creatures. We've got beetles. We also tend to get dragonfly larvae and damselfly larvae, great diving beetles and other things. But there's also lots of little small creatures like water fleas, and there's some tiny little worms in here I saw earlier. There's one there. But lots of things. There's a freshwater shrimp.